This is a 1966 Fender Mustang, and this is a brand new Squire Mustang, and here's why they are both super cool guitars. Now, when Fender first introduced the Mustang in late 1964, it was basically a hot-rodded, pun intended, version of their already existing student models, such as the Music Master and the Duo Sonic. The Music Master only had a neck pickup, basically, but it was the same design. The Duo Sonic did have two pickups. The Mustang introduced this tremolo system for the first time, and I suppose the idea was if your dad was playing a Telecaster or a Stratocaster already and he wanted to get his child a guitar, he would get them either Music Master, Duo Sonic, or the new reimagined Mustang if they wanted to have a fancy wiggle stick on it. One of the reasons the Mustang is considered a student model in that sense is the shorter 24-inch scale length as opposed to the typical Fender 25.5-inch scale length. They interestingly also did make models of the Music Master and the Mustang in a 22-inch scale length, which is even shorter. Really starts to feel like a miniature guitar at that point. This one here is the 24-inch scale length version. I assume that coming out in 1964 and opting to be sort of that hot-rodded version of a student guitar, they wanted to tie it in somehow with the youth culture of the time. Coming out earlier in 1964 would have been the Ford Mustang. There you have it, let's name it the Mustang. It also came in a very patriotic array of colors. You had Olympic white, Daphne blue, and Dakota red that you could get them in. This one started life as a Daphne blue or Dakota red one, I can't even remember which, because it has this original white perlwood pickguard and black plastics. The original Olympic white one would have had a tortoiseshell pickguard and white pickup covers. One of the interesting features of a Mustang that makes it a Mustang is these two switches right here. They basically function as on and off switches for each pickup until they are both engaged. If they're traveling the same way, for instance, they're both up, they're both down, the two pickups are both going to be on and they're going to be in phase with each other, I suppose. I don't know. If they are traveling the opposite direction, both inward or outward, they will be out of phase. You get this super crazy quacky sound that's wild. So this one is a refinished model, obviously, in this white, and it's also got a, what is this, a Seymour Duncan JB Jr., I think, in the bridge position. Modified guitars like this are great because it usually brings the price down from an all-original model, and it makes you a little bit less timid with it. In the 70s and 80s, modifying older guitars was a really popular trend. Sometimes, very unfortunately, sometimes it makes the guitar cooler. Now, we all know what happens with guitars in the 1980s when everything starts to get super performance-based, 24 frets, deep cutaways, humbuckers, Floyd Roses, pointy, neon, all of that. And guitars like this sort of fell out of style, and compounding on that was the Mustang, which never really caught on with a mainstream crowd anyway. And starting in the 90s, you could find these guitars, from what I hear, for pretty cheap in pawn shops in whatever condition they may be in. You may find an all-original one, you may have found a battered and beaten one, whatever it may have been. These became very popular options for affordable guitars that were still of quality, and you could modify them to your liking. A very popular example of this will be, of course, with Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, one of the artists who really brought the Fender Mustang and the Fender Jaguar and the Fender Jazzmaster back into the public eye. And that is where this comes in. This is super cool. This is a Squire Bullet Mustang HH. If you notice, it has two humbuckers. You can get versions of the Mustang as you see on a vintage model with the original single coil pickups and the tremolo and the switches and all the stuff that makes the Mustang. You can get that in the classic vibe range or older examples in different product lines from Fender. But this one is a super cool development. These came around, I don't know, maybe 2017-ish. And this is the Bullet range from Fender. Now it's known as the Sonic Series, but they still make this exact same model in the Sonic Series. And this is Fender's bottom of the line, most entry level and affordable guitar. And I think it's really cool that they offer this because it's so inspired by the original idea of the Mustang and what made the Mustang popular in the grunge movement of the 90s, being able to modify them and whatnot. You no longer have the tremolo system, the unique switching system. You just have a three-way toggle, and you have two humbuckers now. So it becomes a more traditional guitar in a certain sense. It's more basic and maybe more beginner friendly. But what I think is cool about this is it's kind of a interesting way to think of a reissue of a ultra modified guitar. This setup on a Mustang is absolutely a realistic vision of what could be made of an original Mustang through a bunch of modifications to get the sound that you would have wanted from an affordable guitar you could find at a pawn shop in the 1990s. These guitars also make great mod platforms if you want to spend $200 or even less if you find a used one and replace the pickups, put kill switches in it. You can see people do this all the time with these models on other YouTube videos or guitar forums. It's really easy to do with such an awesome starting point like this one. The Bullet series, which this one is from, which is now discontinued, you could find these guitars in this Imperial Blue color, black, white, Sonic Gray, and Surf Green. Now in the Sonic series, you can definitely get them in what they call California Blue and Flash Pink, and there are other limited edition colors they do. I think right now there's a yellow version you can get, and there's also, they introduced a model with the exact same guitar but with single coil pickups. I think you can get that one in Torino Red and Sunburst, which is cool. If you want a version of this guitar that's a little bit closer to the original idea of a Mustang, you can get it with the single coil pickups. It's just still not going to have the switching system or the fancy tremolo on it. It's still just going to be a three-way toggle, hardtail, just like this one. Now back in like 2013-ish, somewhere around there, Fender did have, I believe it was called the Pawn Shop series, which featured a Mustang. I think there was one with like wide range humbuckers in it and maybe the similar three-way toggle switching system. And those were super cool. That was kind of the same idea. They literally called it the Pawn Shop series, and it was guitars that Fender made as if they were modified and you found them hanging in a pawn shop or found them hanging in a pawn shop and modified them yourself. But super cool idea nonetheless. This one though, it's only $200. It's really cool if you want to modify it yourself. It's super low stakes to get in here and just start routing stuff out, throwing parts in it, whatever you want to do, refinish it. And that is why I think this guitar is so cool. Not only is it really good for a beginner, it's good if you want to start working on guitars, if you want to try out a refret or any kind of fret work, if you want to try to start setting up guitars and you're just super worried that you might mess something up, or if you want to start learning how to solder and need something to practice on. Drop some new pickups in this thing. Whatever you want to do, this thing can really be a rocking machine. It already is. It's already a perfectly fine guitar to have some fun with, but if you want to have even more fun and make it your own, it's so easy to do, so fun to do. I love these things. Good job, Fender. Good job, Squire. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing from me. I bought this guitar because when I was 17, for some reason, I found myself really interested in Mustangs, and so I had gone to Emerald City Guitars when I was 17 and played some of their vintage Mustangs. Trevor Boone was awesome. I asked to play one of them. He brought me every single vintage Fender short scale offset they had in the store at the time and told me to have a blast. So I finally acquired this one, and then I got this one just for fun because I always dreamed of having one of these when I couldn't afford one of these as well. But I got this one and it's just kind of been sitting in my room here. And let me know if you guys would want to follow along on a cool modification journey with this one, or maybe I'll get one of the newer pink ones or something, and just go crazy with it. Let me know if you guys would want to see that. I know I would want to watch that if I was watching. So if you do want to see that, please subscribe, drop a like, whatever you can do to help out, and I will see you guys in the next one.